The summer STEM project that I decided to do was to create a projectile motion simulator. Firstly, I'll explain my problem. During first semester in physics class, we learned about projectile motion. When I was solving projectile motion problems, I would draw on the paper to show how the projectile was moving. But since it is a piece of paper, it doesn't actually move, and I thought that the drawing wasn't very good at showing the motion of the projectile. So my idea was that I wanted to make something that would make it easier to visualize projectile motion. And the solution was to create a projectile motion simulator with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now I'll explain how to use my projectile motion simulator. Now I will show how to use my projectile motion simulator. Firstly, you need to set the initial conditions, which you can do here. So you can change the different variables. For example, changing the position, and you can change the velocity, the acceleration, and gravity. So for example, I can change the Vy to be 10, and now it will go higher. I can also change gravity to the gravity of different planets. So for example, I can set it to the moon if I wanted to. To move the camera of the simulation, I'll drag my mouse on the simulation to move it, and I can zoom in and zoom out by scrolling. When I want to start the simulation, I have to press on play here. And now it will show the motion of the projectile. I can pause it again, and I can reset it too. I can also make it automatically stop when a variable reaches a specific number. So for example, I can set y to 0 here, and when I press play, once it hits y equals 0, it will stop automatically. So now I can solve for problems where I need to know how much, for example, how much time will pass when it reaches the ground. I can also change the simulation speed here, so I can make it slower. If I set it to 0.5, it will go slower. I can also set it to a higher number if I want it to go faster. When using the camera, I can also make it follow the ball. So when I press yes here, when I play, it will follow the ball. This is helpful if the ball is moving fast and it's hard to move the mouse manually to follow it. In conclusion, I was able to make a simulation to visualize projectile motion easily. I enjoy making the projectile motion simulator, but there are still some things that could be improved or new things that I want to add to it. One of the things is making it possible to solve any kind of problem. Currently, some problems, like figuring out how much velocity is needed to jump over a certain height, things like that are impossible to solve, so I want to make it possible. Another thing that I want to add is changing the visual appearance of the projectile. Currently, it's just a red circle, but I want it to also be things like basketballs or cars. I also want to make it possible to see the change in position instead of just the absolute coordinates. So the variables like delta x and delta y. I also want to make it possible to see the exact values of the variables before they get rounded down to the significant figures, like with the answers that include the the sine or cosine or things like the square root inside of the variable. Thank you for listening.